More Heman Chronicles. Heman and the Earthquake. Heman was sitting on a rock, enjoying the spring sunshine and looking out over the valley. "I am such a lucky mouse," he thought to himself. "I have a wonderful family and a nice home in the woodpile, and I can look out over this lovely valley any time I want and just enjoy the view." From his rock, he could see the cabin, and down further in the valley was the donkey farm with its barns and the house where the donkey lady lived. "Yup," he thought, "life is good." Just then, his rock began to move. At first, it was just a little, and then stronger and stronger until he had to jump off because it began rolling down the hill. Everything was shaking, and it seemed to go on forever. It was an earthquake. He ran towards the woodpile only to see it tumble down, and firewood began to roll every which way. As quickly as it had begun, the earthquake stopped. It had lasted for only about a minute, but as Heman looked around, he couldn't believe the damage. The woodpile was a mess. There was no longer a way to get into his home. The porch on the cabin had lost one of its support posts and hung at a strange angle. The roof on one of the barns of the donkey farm had slid partway off. "Hester!" Heman called. "Minnie, Winnie, George, where are you?" He ran to the other side of the cook shack. "Harry, can you hear me?" he called. Heman was really scared. Where was his family? He had left Hester and the twins inside the house that morning. George had been with them, but was planning to go out with Harry later on. Heman wished that he had stayed with them. Suddenly, he heard Hester's voice calling, "Heman, Heman, come and help us! We are here in the woodpile with a piece of firewood pinning us down. Please get over here and free us." Then Minnie and Winnie squeaked up, "Daddy, Daddy, please get us out of here." Heman set about looking for the firewood that had his wife and daughters trapped. Finally, he located it, but could not roll it off of them. "Are you hurt?" he called out to them. "I don't know," Heman answered Hester. "My head hurts, and I think Minnie may have a broken foot. Please get us free." Heman tried mightily, but could not budge the firewood. "Where's Dad?" he called out. "Is my father George in there with you?" "No, Daddy," responded Winnie. "He went off with Harry earlier this morning to visit the donkey farm." "Daddy, can you hurry up and get us out of here? I think Mommy has fainted." Heman was beside himself. With a Herculean effort, he finally managed to dislodge the firewood and free his wife and daughters. Hester had indeed fainted, and Minnie had a swollen foot. Winnie appeared unscathed and helped her sister to get up. Heman gently touched Hester and was relieved to see her open her eyes. "I'm okay, Heman, I think," said Hester in a weak voice. "Let me just catch my breath." Heman looked around for a place where he could shelter his family before he set out to search for George and Harry. He found a smooth corner near the woodpile, which seemed to be safe, and moved his wife and daughters there. "I'll be back," he said. "I need to find George and Harry." Harry and George had started home as soon as the earthquake hit. Fortunately, they had gotten all the way to the donkey farm, or it would be hours before they got back. Just as Heman met them hurrying up the road, there was another earthquake. The three mice dived for cover under a sage bush, but this was just a small earthquake and was over almost before it began. They hurried back to the woodpile. Minnie was sitting with her foot propped up on and Hester was leaning up against the wall. She was still a little dizzy. "We need a plan," George suggested. "We sure do," added Herman. "Do you think we can get back into our home?" asked Harry. "No," answered Hester with tears in her eyes. "It's gone. My pretty strike anywhere matchbox table is smashed and the roof is gone, and there is no doorway left to get in and out." "Let's look at the bright side," Herman said bravely. "The bright side?" asked Hester, and she began to cry again. "We have often talked about moving to a better location," Herman responded, "and now is our chance." "We could move inside the cook shack and live in the broom closet," Harry suggested. "No, no, no," Hester objected. "The people use the cook shack, and they would find us and set out traps and poison." "How about in the attic with my cousins?" suggested Herman. "I don't think so," Hester said. "You know your cousins are nice enough, but they are loud and messy, and I couldn't live like that. Besides, Minnie can't climb that far with her foot." "I know the perfect place," George said quietly. "It's under the water tank." "What's so great about under the water tank?" asked Winnie. "The water tank rests on a wooden frame," George answered, "and there is a small space between the frame and the ground that would be perfect. There's protection from the weather and a wonderful view of the valley. Your mother and I used to go there when we were young." Herman looked at his father speculatively. "I guess we could take a look and see if it's okay. What do you think, Hester?" Hester smiled weakly and replied, "I am not up to going to take a look. Leave me here with the girls and you and George go scout the location. I think I need Harry here also because I still feel very faint." Harry would have preferred to go with his father and grandfather, but knew his father, Herman, wouldn't let him go, particularly if his mother wasn't feeling well. He resigned himself to staying behind, and George consoled him by saying, "You are in charge, Harry. Take care of your mother and sisters till we get back." Harry flipped his tail up in agreement and sat down next to his mother. Herman and George took off for the water tank. When they arrived there, they found the site promising, but knew they had to make it comfortable for the family. "What do you think, Dad?" asked Herman. "How can we make this move in ready for Hester and the kids? Hester's not feeling well, so we really have to put things together ourselves." George nodded his head in agreement and replied, "First, we have to locate some food and bring it here. We also need some soft bedding. I don't think we can get anything from the old home. The earthquake sealed off the entrance, and it wouldn't be safe for us to try and get in there." Herman nodded at his father's words, and then made a decision. "Let's forage for food first. If we happen to see some other things we can use, we'll bring them back, but food right now is the most important thing to get." George agreed, and the two mice set off together to seek food to bring back and store by the water tank. Back at the cook shack, Hester was really feeling awful with a pounding headache. She needed to sleep, but was worried about her children. Finally, she could stay awake no longer and admonished Harry to watch out for his little sisters. Then she put her head down and slept. Harry was frightened. His mother was his rock, always there when he needed her, and now he had the responsibility for her safety, as well as that of his little sisters. Herman's cousins who lived in the cook shack came down to see Harry and the girls. Harry told them about the proposed move to the water tank. "We can help," they chorused. "Herman showed us a good time with all the food in the trailer, so we'll return the favor. The attic of the cook shack has insulation that makes a wonderful bed. We'll take some over right now. We also have a pretty good stash of grain left in our winter stores and could give you some of that." I'm sure Mom and Dad will appreciate your help, Harry replied. I have to stay here and look after Mom and the twins. The cousins ran off and were soon headed to the water tank with bedding and food. Herman and George were surprised to see all the help and most thankful as well. As a group, they fixed up the new place with beds and food and were just about to go to get Hester when Herman said, "You know, I think Hester is just overwhelmed by losing everything we had, especially her matchbox table. Do you have any ideas for replacing her table?" The cousins put their heads together and came up with a plan. "You go get Hester and the girls," they said. "We have an idea." As soon as Herman left, the rest of the mice ran to the trash bin behind the cool shack. The lid was not on tight, so they climbed right in. There, near the top, was a glass pimento jar, with its lid still on. Together they managed to get it out of the trash and roll it over to the water tank. Then, a couple of the mice ran back and found a plastic lid, which they quickly brought and placed on top of the jar. "Look," they said, "a modern glass table." "So it is," George replied. "I'm sure that will make Hester feel a lot better." Soon everything was ready. Herman returned with Hester, Harry, and the twins. As they came in the door, George and all the cousins called out, "Surprise!" "It's beautiful," Hester exclaimed through happy tears. "Look at the table and those fluffy beds. I thought we had lost everything and would be homeless." "Thank you all," Herman said. "When you have friends and family around, you can survive anything." The end, for now.